Hold on to your hats because we're going to go into an episode where we're going to talk about practicing of tackling. We have one of the pieces of equipment that does it from way back when. Timothy B. Brown of footballarchaeology.com joins us to tell us all about it. Coming up in just a moment.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history. And how about let's take some time and learn a little bit of football history. We have none better than historian Timothy B. Brown of footballarchaeology.com joining us here once again on Tuesday. Tim, welcome back to the Pig Pen.
Hey, Darren, good to be here hanging out with you.
Yeah, okay. All right. Folks, Tim, it doesn't sound bad what he just said, but I get what he's talking about because to this episode, we're going to be talking about a tidbit he did recently called Hanging Out with the Dummies. And I'm the dummy for taking that punchline right on the chin. So he got me good.
Sorry.
Hey, it's okay. Tim, why don't you tell us a little bit about this tidbit and some of the history?
Yeah, so it's kind of positioning everybody's, who's ever played the game has at one point or another hit a tackling dummy or a blocking dummy. And but like everything else, it had to be invented, somewhere along the line. And we don't really know who came up with the idea first, but we do know that in 1892, both Amos Alonzo Stagg at Yale and then Arthur Cumnock, who was the captain at Harvard, both developed tackling dummies. And it makes sense that they both would have done it because at the same time, in that, football is getting increasingly into the mass kind of game, mass and momentum, injuries. And so they were basically looking for a way to, Cumnock's the guy who was the first guy to have spring training or spring practice too. So, he's trying to find a way to get his, fellow teammates to be able to practice safely and do it during the off season. So he came up with, he stuffed some kind of big, bag filled with rags or whatever it was, and then hung it from the ceiling at the gym at Harvard's gymnasium. And then down the road was Stagg, and he basically did the same thing. And I think I may be flipping the two, but one of them filled a bag with rags, and the other one wrapped a log with a mattress. And that was the first. Those were the first tackling dummies. And so then, over time they became, more, became commercially produced, items. Now there were still, I've got a picture of like Fielding Yost doing a dummy with a player in like 1902, and it looks like it's just a big sack of rags, right? Or, something like that. So even an organization that would have had, some money at the time, Michigan, was using a bag of rags, right? But in the background here, you see, that as they commercialized, they started producing these frameworks and then kind of a pulley system, and a lot of the dummies originally were, had legs, so they had a crotch and legs, so they were kind of body shaped without arms or a head. But they'd hang that thing on these things, and then there were different systems. Some of them, swung the dummy on some kind of a framework. Others, like I said, pulley systems, and then this can't, but this little mechanism up here. One of the big advances, and maybe it was right here where it happened. But anyways, they figured out ways to let that thing unlock under a certain amount of force. So if you hit the dummy the way you were supposed to hit it, then it would release and you could go flying with the dummy and, keep your legs driving and all that kind of stuff. So, it's just one of those things, back then they basically executed it. The area under the dummy was typically filled with sawdust or loose dirt. Just like, I mean, that's the way high jumpers, they used to land, pole vaulters for that matter, landed in sawdust, for a long time. So that's kind of the environment that they were working in. But they kept producing the leg version of them. I found them in catalogs in the 1950s. So they stuck around for a long time. They had the pop-up dummies. Those came around in probably the 30s. You know, in the 30s they had like these big round bottoms, weighted bottoms so that they would pop back up. And they used those a lot for the rolling and body blocking that was typical of the time, for downfield blocking. Um, but one way or another, people have been hitting bags of stuff since 1892. Whether it's a hand shield or the really lightweight dummies that are around nowadays. But back when I was a boy, those things, I mean, they weighed like 50 pounds, and then if they got wet, they were horrible. But
Right.
it is what it is, or was what it was.
Right. And the incoming freshmen and the four-string players everywhere applauded when these tackling dummies came out. So
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Yeah, those
yeah,
I mean, those things were heavy. They were
right.
not the ones today. What do they weigh? Like 3 pounds or 4 pounds or something like that. But
Yeah.
man, oh man.
Yeah, it's amazing how many different variations today. You go to any practice field, even high schools, every one of them will have like something different that, some of them I look at, I'm like, boy, I never saw that one before. And it's
Yeah.
kind of unique what people are coming up with these days with the modern technology and ways we can produce things compared to 100 some years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I like the ones that they look like donuts, they're rolling along the field. So, so a guy is pursuing and tackling it. Those, you know, I think that's a
Yeah.
pretty clever design and real,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely pretty cool. And it's basically using these mechanisms and devices. It's making the game safer. Not only for a guy running and getting tackled, but for the player that's making a tackle too. It's
Right.
it's
Right.
trying to teach them to keep eyes up and see what you're hitting and going back to fundamentals of football that we sort of got away for the last few decades.
Yeah. Well, and, I've written this a few times probably, but, kind of making the statement that originally tackling dummies were freshmen. You know, that's the way it worked, right? I mean, you ran sideways or whatever, and somebody hits you, and but so I mean, it's far better to just eliminate, contact whenever you can with another human being and substitute it with some kind of device. And like you said, there's so many variations of them now, but they all, they really haven't gotten that much better. I
Right.
mean, they're lighter, certainly. They're more durable. They're easier to clean off than they were in the past, but they're still just a bag of something, that you hit and that's softer than a human being.
Mo- Most definitely. And since you sort of segued into it using the word freshman, folks, you're seeing some footage from a 1920s silent film titled The Freshman. I have more of the details in the show notes of this podcast or the YouTube channel for you to check out. Pretty cool movie. I mean, it's a sort of a vaudeville fun movie, having some humor in it, but it's got some interesting devices from 100 years ago that it's neat to talk as we're talking about it. You can see some of those in action and film it shows what real life was sometimes, and it's kind of cool to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you shared some of those segments with me, so they're pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, most definitely. And something else that's a lot of fun to watch or at least to read is your tidbits that you're sharing are just like the one today. You have a full article on it, and you bring back a little bit of football history, and you do this quite often throughout the week, almost daily. Maybe you could share with folks how they can enjoy your tidbits.
Sure. Just go to footballarchaeology.com, subscribe, and you can subscribe for free. Then if you do that, then you get all of the podcasts that we do together. And then you also get, probably one article a week. Sometimes it'll be 2 a week. Paid subscribers get access to everything, including all the archives. So, but that's it. Otherwise, you can follow me on Blue Sky, or just bookmark the site and show up there whenever you feel like it.
All right. Well, Tim Brown, we appreciate you coming in here and sharing a little bit about the dummies of football that aren't named Aaron. And we appreciate that. And we would love to talk to you more next week on some more great football of antiquity.
Very good. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.